Let's start out with today's question, because I got a complicated one. And I got one that I myself don't know the answer to. But it's something I'm wrestling with myself as a consumer. And that is, so Ralph Nader never tells anybody who he votes for. You can kind of infer who he voted for most of the time, I would say. But he never straight up tells anybody. And the more I think about it, the more I think the reason he does that is because he understands the voter shaming that happens. And I think especially now, you still have people pointing their fingers at people that voted for Gary Johnson, at people that voted for Jill Stein. More Jill Stein. For some reason, they never point their finger at the Gary Johnson voters. They only point their finger at Jill Stein voters. And that's because nobody likes to be outlefted. That's why that is. But I digress. My question is, going on the Ralph Nader thing and looking at the way our conversation has been diluted and hijacked, is that maybe a good practice? I mean, I personally have thought about, you know what, maybe from now on, I'm not going to say who I vote for. I'm going to be like, I'm not going to say. I feel like if you're an elected official, you kind of have to say if you're questioned. But I feel like if you're not, then you don't have to say. And I'm getting to the point where I feel like maybe in the future, I don't want to say anymore. And I don't want to tell people. You know, I voted for Jill Stein. I've already been open about that, and I will continue to be. And I don't regret voting for Jill Stein. I would do the same thing tomorrow. But the way the voter shaming is so thick, and it's just so lazy. And I feel like if we were talking about actual issues that got us to this point, we could do a little bit better making progress and acknowledging that the status quo is completely broken. But when you have people going against each other, I mean, it amazes me that people will blame, you know, especially with the Supreme Court right now. And I get it. It's terrible what's happening. It's terrible. I'm not going to say it's not. Of course it is. But you're going to blame people that voted for Jill Stein or didn't vote at all because they didn't feel like there was an option. You're going to blame those people instead of blaming Barack Obama for not fighting for a pick that was rightfully his because he was too busy cheerleading the TPP, and he wanted to twist people's arms into voting for Hillary Clinton because they knew how disliked she was. You're not going to blame the DNC for their behavior in cheating Bernie and propping up the only candidate Trump could beat. You're not going to blame the Pied Piper strategy that got Trump involved in the first place. You're not going to blame any of that. Instead, you're going to blame the 1% of people that voted for Jill Stein, which, by the way, you could have given all of her votes to Hillary. Hillary still would have lost. And you're also assuming that people that voted for Jill Stein would have voted for Hillary if Jill Stein wasn't running. So anyway, I'm rehashing stuff that we all know to be obvious. So getting back to my question, is it better to just shut up about who we voted for in the future, going forward? Just be like, I don't want to tell you who I voted for. It's not your business who I voted for. But here are the issues. Here's what's at stake. Here's what you can talk about candidates that you like, but as far as what you did in the ballot box, that's your business. Is that the right thing to do from now on? Or is that not the right thing to do? Because sometimes you got to stick your chin out and say, I'm not participating in this anymore. And this is what I'm doing with my vote. I'm going to be strategic with it. Tough question. I mean, I don't know the answer yet. I'm leaning towards following the Ralph Nader strategy. And from now on, who I vote for, I'm not going to talk about. Because I'll be honest with you guys. And this is getting personal. If Hillary runs in 2020, which again, I'm hoping she's not. I'll say this. I don't think there's nothing conclusive saying that she is. However, if anybody would try to run 3 times, it'd be her. I mean, there's no other politician in the world I can think of or at least, well, maybe the world's a bit much, but in the United States at least, that I can think of, that I could see doing it. There's no one else in the United States I could see doing it other than her. So I want to say she's not going to do it. I haven't seen anything conclusive saying she is. However, if anybody would, it's her. But anyway, my thing is, if she does run in 2020, and this is me personally, this is just me, you know, I'd have a really hard time talking to people that I care about in my life, you know, friends, family. I'd have a really hard time because God. I mean, I'm getting angry just thinking about it. I would not want to know. I would not want to know. I'd be like, you know what? If you're still playing this game and you voted for her, I'd rather not know about it. I'd rather not know. Because, you know. All right, let's go to see what you guys are saying. It's up to the individual in the end, but I can see it going either way. Vote strategically, keep it secret, keep it safe. Okay. I personally am never ashamed of who I vote for. I never said anything about being ashamed. I'm not ashamed of who I voted for. I voted for Jill Stein. I'd do it again tomorrow. What I'm saying is, does it dilute the conversation when, you know, instead of really talking about issues, we're voter shaming? I think, for one, if everybody just kind of put aside who they actually voted for and we talked about what really got us to this point, I think we'd be better off. I really do. Hell no, the status quo will find something else to shame progressives for. Progressive people, should be telling people who they voted for and why. Can't you tell people how you feel without saying who you actually voted for? I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, because I understand that perspective, but why does it have... I mean, some people don't vote as a way of protest. Let's see. So you are not going to endorse candidates in the future, Ron? I've barely endorsed any candidates to begin with. In the primary in California, I endorsed Maria Estrada, I endorsed Kenneth Mejia, and I endorsed Angelica Duenas. Oh, Gail McLaughlin. So I guess that's actually a fair amount, but out of everybody running, those are the only 4 people that I came out and vocally endorsed. And didn't do anything. Didn't do anything. I mean, you know, Kenneth made the runoff, Maria made the runoff. So, you know, I don't know what my endorsement means. I would say it means nothing. My endorsement doesn't matter. I barely make them anyway. Oh, and I endorsed Stephen Jaffe. And, I mean, he got slaughtered. So I mean, I barely make endorsements anyway, and it does absolutely nothing. So I don't see why that's like... That's pretty much a non-issue. People will always find a way to divide in the liberal and conservatives camps, even without talking about the candidates. That's true. The Hillbots are never going to keep quiet about their votes. That's also true. Need to talk about who we vote for the new voters. That's a good point. It is not about changing minds. It's about bringing new people into the fold. That's a very good point. So my point, she didn't even get 5% and still scapegoated. Better to tell people who you voted for. So, yeah, you guys make some excellent points. And again, my mind's not made up one way or the other. It's just, you know, every time the Supreme Court gets brought up, you just see so much voter shaming. And I feel like it just completely dilutes the conversation. It just glosses over the fact that Obama just gave away. Somebody said this to me over the weekend. And this is going to make everybody's blood boil, so get freaking ready. When I brought up, I was like, how do you blame the people that either didn't vote or didn't vote? And you know, this person was calling the people that didn't go out and vote, he called them idiots, he called them stupid. And I'm like, how privileged and blind are you to tell the person in rural America that has been screwed for 40 years by neoliberal bullshit, thought Obama was going to be something different, and then it turns out he was just neoliberalism as usual, so nothing got better in their lives. How do you blame them when they're working 2 and 3 jobs to survive? They're living in borderline poverty. Their quality of life is in the toilet. You're going to shame them for not voting for Hillary Clinton after they had 8 years of Obama and nothing changed for them. You're going to shame them. That's so intellectually lazy and tone deaf and blind. It's unbelievable. And then when I said, you know what, you're going to blame the Supreme Court on, the most marginalized among us instead of blaming Barack Obama for not fighting for a pick that was his. And what that person said in response to me was, don't you think he was just being a gentleman? And I said, your delusion is... Wow. I mean, I was jaw-dropped then. I'm jaw-dropped now. Just rehashing what that person, who is a friend, said to me. He was being a gentleman. Oh, Obama was being a gentleman. And I said, well, guess what? I don't care about being a gentleman to your opponents. You were elected to do a frickin' job. And if you are the president that people elected, it is your job to appoint a Supreme Court pick. So my point is, and part of the reason why I bring up this question today is because, that's really been going on right now. And yeah, I mean, my conversation with that person was hopefully an exception to the rule. But although you hear that sentiment a lot, so yeah, you guys make good points on both sides of the aisle. My mind's not made up yet, although I used to never entertain the idea of not being vocal about who I voted for. But for the first time, I am entertaining that idea. And I can certainly see why Ralph Nader has reached that conclusion years ago, because he's been fighting this fight for a long time, and he probably knows how that game works, and he's probably seen all the shaming mechanisms in place, and so he's decided, you know what, I'm not going to let this be diluted this way. And Winkle brings up a great point. We could solve all of this if we had ranked choice voting. Hey guys, thanks for watching. That was a clip from Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What does that mean? That means I log on to a stream and people tweet me articles over on Twitter at Ron Placone, or they use our Reddit subsection, which is just Get Your News On with Ron over on Reddit. And that's how we build the show. I'm seeing all these articles for the first time. We are literally getting our news on together. Follow me on Twitter at Ron Placone so you can participate. And this show streams live every Tuesday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So please do tune in. If you want to support this show, you can do so over on patreon.com/Ron Placone, where for as low as $1 a month, you get access to exclusive podcasts every week, exclusive videos, free tickets to shows when I'm performing in your town, and more for as low as $1 a month. Please do consider it. Thank you so much for your support. This has been Get Your News On with Ron.